Hey everyone, thanks for coming to this rather extended panel. Before we dive in some topics, maybe we can do a short intro. Everyone can tell us uh, his role and whatever. We can start with you, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. I have worked in retail broking for more years than I care to admit. Most recently acted as CMO at ADSS, a Middle Eastern broker. Um, New role incoming on Monday. So yeah, exciting times.
Hi, I'm Itai Leviton, Head of Strategy at Investing Live. Investing Live is part of the Ultimate Group that's also part of this conference. And we are the B2C brand facing investors and traders, formerly Forex Live. And as Head of Strategy, I like to apply strategy in order to make everyone more effective. I'm also developing a lot of strategies for traders. And I also have some work with Yam on FM, and we discuss AI. So hopefully I will be able to also give a few takeaways for those that want to apply it in their marketing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roberto Napolitano. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Innove Finance. Innove Finance is the trade body that represents UK Fintech. So we connect the Fintech ecosystem with our initiatives and events. We promote the success stories of Fintech in the UK as an important sector of the economy. And we also advocate on behalf of the sector, so working with government and regulators to ensure that regulations are helping fintechs to scale and be successful.
Hi, I'm Tony, done 25 years in the FX and CFD industry now, a PR by trade, but what I see myself doing is connecting brokers with clients and building that relationship successfully. So yeah, it's fascinating to be part of this panel on with the AI focus on it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Federico Paderni. I lead the EMEA growth market for X, not to be called Twitter today. I'm looking at Yam. Pleasure to be with you all.
So it's not a surprise that, like in every aspect of the financial industry, AI has drastically changed marketing. But before we dive into hardcore AI topic, maybe you can go do a brief round. What everyone thinks. What are the key changes in marketing? Let's say in the last 2 years, related and not related to AI. Who would like to start?
I can go first. I think from the perspective of fintech and the sector, I think the big changes were economical changes. So we've seen a little bit of a decline in investment in the fintech, and that of course that's reflected in marketing. So as marketeers, we live on budgets, right? So I think the last couple of years have been quite challenging in terms of managing budgets, marketing budgets for fintechs. But I'm hopeful for this year. I think has been a lot better. Next year, I think it's going to be even better, hopefully. So at least that was a change, and of course, technology and AI.
I think that for 20 plus years, the world of marketing was used to the very successful Google model. And whether it was organic content that brought in the traffic to your top of funnel or the paid PPC model, Google was the 900-pound gorilla. And we can start seeing a possibility that in the future, that will be completely almost gone. Okay, we have some references. We can put our brand in Gemini and other AIs, but the traffic there is not as strong. It might change. There could be a future where a user would be in the gateway of GPT or Gemini or whatever it is. And why go to any website if you don't have a reason to do so? Now, if you have a platform like the Fivers and I have a reason to go there, great. But if you're a content website or even you're a brand and you have these pages that are supposed to bring in the traffic, you need to start thinking why do people need to come to me and not be in this AI gateway forever that takes my content and gives them whatever they can get from me? What is the reason for them to come to me? So, and of course, also in terms of marketing, to start focusing more on word of mouth, on brand, on direct, on social, and especially direct.
You were mentioning it as a future trend, but isn't it
It's
already
actually happening
it's
now.
here?
A lot of websites have experienced 30 to 50% crash in their organic traffic. You see the impressions, people are not clicking, they have the AI overlays, they have other reasons not to click. So why click?
I think that's interesting. And I think for me over the last couple of years, and perhaps controversial view, I think there's been a real over-reliance on performance marketing, a slight obsession. And I think that's been to the detriment of brand and customer focus. And I think companies that have had that, that focus and haven't really nurtured their brand are going to find themselves in quite a tricky spot now. I think their costs are going to go up. And I think the work around brand, it's not something that happens overnight. So I think some organizations are going to be in a bit of a bind going forward.
Right. The word of mouth is going to come back big.
Yeah, we're going old school.
I mean, just leaning into that, I think where the concern I've got, where you say the word of mouth thing is going to be so important, is the fact that we've got the ability now to essentially create infinite content at close to zero cost. So if we're not careful about this, there's going to be so much rubbish out there. People aren't going to be able to find the truth from the noise. And so I think as with the provider hat on, we need to be responsible with our use of AI and make sure that people are aware that if they come to us direct, this gets over the point about why come to the website rather than using whatever an AI model will churn out. It's giving them a reference point, a reason to believe that, rather than it simply being an aggregation of everything else that's been said. And the thing that's been said the most is what comes to the top.
Well, what we have seen on X is very much what like Itai and Joe were mentioning, right? So X usually like reflects the macro trends, right? So there is a baseline of conversation. I think in 2025 we are having about 300 million people in interest in finance or trading. And then this conversation spikes during trends, right? Especially like during high volatility. So for instance, in 2025, April was like the conversation grew like more than 10x versus the baseline, right? We hope that if there is like an AI cage, that could be Grok and not Gemini or ChatGPT, we hope. But on top of that, again, all the trends around like like the conversation and why to click, right? We've been applying AI to give like users more relevant context and content on both on the user side and the advertising side to to improve exactly what you were describing on like reason to actually visit the page or install the apps or actually make the trade. So all of that is actually reflected on Axie as well. Yeah.
And
Federico,
if I may add, also brands need to see where it's harder for these AI gateways to provide the content and value. So let's take an example. And you see it especially lately because these AI gateways took a half a step back. If you ask them about predictions, what's the stock, how the stock's going to move, you see they're starting to answer, oh no, I can't answer that sort of stuff. But the brand can maybe go into forecast, maybe can go to more analysis, more predictions. Video, yes, I can get links in the AI to videos, but there's still you're still more competing with the AI on these textual experiences, right? So you have, if you have the video should become stronger in this ecosystem, for example. So just seeing where AI has a more of a challenge and going stronger there.
so we know there are a lot of problems with AI lately, inaccuracies and echo chambers and things like that. Federico, on X, how do you filter low res content? How do you Are we trying to make sure that your users are getting the best result per time point?
So there are two or three things I would say. Like the first one is that we've been completely rebuilding our tech stack. So from a user perspective, by the end of the year, all what we call the heuristics, which is the old way of like showing content to users, will be completely effectively replaced by Grok. So Grok will read every post and every video, which is like more than 100 million per day. So it's an incredible volume to actually show users the most relevant, most relevant content. This should also solve that problem that we call like a small account problem. So maybe you have like just few thousand followers or few hundred followers and you post something, I was about to say tweet, post something like very, very relevant, but then you have no reach because you have very little following. So with having that post read by Grok, understood by Grok, and then show to the relevant people, I think that's the biggest thing like that we are doing right now. In terms of like risk for AI, we've been investing a lot in community notes. Again, we have more than community notes is our system to effectively give users a way to provide context on a specific post that could be misleading or could be AI generated. The growth has been incredible. We have more than 1 million community post contributors, but now we are like further scaling this investment with the AI. So having AI that proactively and Grok proactively writing community posts, community notes, and then having humans reviewing them. And if they are like valuable and quality high enough, they will be published, right? So those are the two main areas that we see as a key areas for us.
Very interesting. Tony, you were telling me about an example of a real market manipulation done by AI, by a stock recommendation or something like that. You remember?
Well, I don't quite recall that one, I must admit. But
Yeah.
the concern I've got is the I know the example. It wasn't
Yeah,
manipulation, but it was
maybe you can repeat the example because I think it's a classic example.
There's a site I use regularly, and they've started putting AI summaries up in front of the regulatory filings that companies do, and reluctantly, I've had to accept these are actually pretty good most of the time. But what I found with one, a company had made an acquisition, they needed the cash, so they were suspending their share buyback. And the AI summary made no reference of this. The AI summary was really positive about the move. The share price tanked. And that's because those in the know understood that pulling the buyback was bad for investors who had priced this into their their sort of short medium term model. So my concern is, again, we've got this machine that will feed itself. It can produce so much content, people buy into it, and all of a sudden we get to the point where the suspension of a share buyback isn't proving negative for the price, yet it should be, because everyone's relying too heavily on AI. And if I got that correct, what you said before there, you've actually got Grok writing its own community notes, which strikes me as marking your own homework big time.
So first of all, for the sake of my own career, I will never comment on market manipulation on X, right?
Yeah.
That will not happen. It's not happening.
And this wasn't X. This was something else. But I was just using the application of using AI to comment on.
Don't get me in trouble. But the idea is like if you have AI that can really understand the context of a post, right, and proactively writes the community notes, which is the most like time-consuming element, right? And then this community post is not actually published; it's shown for review to humans and to real users that have proven, expertise with different perspective on that particular topic. And then if the community notes written by AI is actually voted to be balanced and truthful, then it will be published, right? So the mechanism is quite healthy in its own way, right?
I think, Tony, to that point and your concern, I think there are some really strong commercial use cases for AI, particularly in the marketing world. I have to think about myself and the teams that I've run and how we've kind of utilized some of this new tool, the new tools and technologies available. It's, scaling our production, it's, automating optimization, it's, testing campaigns against synthetic audiences. There's a lot of really good stuff there, but what it can't replace and shouldn't replace is that strategic thinking and kind of judgment. So I think that's the real balance to find. I think when you can combine those two things, it's really powerful. but it's, you know, that framework and governance around, you know, kind of is really, really important.
If I can add, the point of automatic content generation, which I'm sure is very relevant to a lot of you marketeers out there, be very careful with that temptation. There's a website called AI Invest, and that's a shout out to Shahar at Bridgewise, who showed me their traffic yesterday and today. AI Invest killed it on Google for a certain period of time. Everything was AI generated. I actually remember seeing their SERPs. It was like they dominated so much placement there, it was crazy. And then Google did a spam update, and now their traffic is zero. So make sure that your marketing people find a good balance. You can use AI, and Google Webmaster Central tells you you can use your AI, but you need to have a unique added value made for humans and not for machines. Now, there is no one better in the world than Google that are building this system that can detect where are you on that borderline. Am I, like, let's say an example, I also do predictions. I build prediction models. So let's say I have a short Autodesk after earnings, it popped up, got killed on some resistance, and now there's a short idea. So that's my idea. That's my added value. AI is not going to do that. Okay, now instead of also spell checking and doing grammar checking that I did with Word, yes, I'm doing AI to wrap up my content. That's fine. But if I'm now doing a glossary, trying to be Investopedia, let's write more content, Google is soon going to kill you. So be very careful about that.
So there's a glass ceiling to what we can allow AI to take over the whole operation.
But it's finding where that ceiling is, isn't it? Because the temptation is going to be, especially amongst rogue operators, to just keep, as you said,
Already happening now. Most are not aware that Google is coming to them with the spam updates.
and that's good. But obviously, the other problem you've got, it's not just Google, is it? Because this stuff's being ingested by other AI models. So you then have the situation of it getting drowned out. Because I know from the old, you know, Google, when it was all done on a raw native basis, that it was very easy to dominate a story with 2 or 3 comments talking about the same story because it kept coming back to the same point.
There's no doubt also about what you said. Not only Google, but users are becoming more proficient at detecting if you're BS AI recycle or you're having something intelligent to say to the world.
Well, some users are, but I think the other risk is a lot won't be, especially that when you're trying to get new customers into, you know, into this retail trading space, they're going to be drawn in by the fact that, well, you know, you've made enough predictions that some of them are going to be right, or your machine's made enough predictions that some are going to be right, and they get sucked in there. And then, of course, there's no substance, and the whole thing vanishes.
I think one thing I've been thinking about with this is we talk about governance, and I think organizations have a bit of a responsibility around kind of education within workforces, because AI is transforming businesses, right? And, you know, with that brings fear, you know, for some functions, you know, feel like they're redundant. I think if you're in risk and compliance, you suddenly have conniptions about, you know, content going out that perhaps isn't approved. So I think organizations have got a real responsibility to kind of educate. And also, I think there's a really interesting point about parity of adoption across functions in organizations. I've been in situations before where, you know, my product team have been a really early adopter of AI, and suddenly they've 10x their output and their product roadmap's gone bananas. And, you know, there's tools and features being released to clients, you know, every 5 minutes, but you know, the connected functions like marketing, sales, ops, onboarding, that they're not 10x. So it's kind of that causes frustration, it causes friction for the end user. So I think there's a big piece around governance and education more broadly.
But do you think the AI companies themselves need to play a role here? Because I got my I use Google Suite for the business email accounts, and great, they sent me an email. Your subscription's going up 20% to pay for all our AI tools, which I'm not using. But if you've got that message being passed at scale, you've got CFOs, for example, saying you have to use AI because we have to pay for it.
Yeah, and I think partners do play a responsibility there. And again, it comes down to, the education and, there's been such a kind of push, AI everything. Can AI do this? Can it do that? And I think, there needs to be a bit of critical thinking around the adoption of the tools and where they are best kind of utilized.
So the adoption is more of for the tools and also for the team to get used to the tools, how to use the tools wisely. Okay, so very interesting. I'd like to move on a little bit to talk about acquisition and metrics. And my main question is, what should marketers measure now beyond clicks? We had in the pre-talk, we had quite a panel on it. So maybe we can start with Roberto.
Yes, and I was fascinated by this conversation about AI, and I think we should always bring the human element when we use AI, and also be very, especially marketeers, effective in which platforms we use, right? And I think I'm very excited, just to close on the AI thing,
Of course,
it's
of
just
course.
excited to see a development on the AI for marketing, which is more like an AI advisor for marketeers. We all use, ChatGPT and, all the other platforms. I'm actually have an AI twin on Slack. People can ask questions and the answers are incredible because he's looking at my correspondence, at my G Drive. So I'm saving a lot of time. But what we're missing at the moment in marketing is an AI advisor that will tell us, these are your channels, these are your campaigns. My advice to you is focus on that, invest more in this campaign and then kill the other campaign. So it's like a real advisor that looks
A new teammate.
a teammate, exactly. In terms of KPIs and how we measure success, I think we can talk about all the usual funnel conversation for the marketeers in the room. But I think from my perspective, especially because I represent an association of fintech, so we have 250 members, I think for us, KPIs are very important in marketing. Are first, reputation. We know reputation is very hard to build, but very easy to kill. And so making sure that it's not just how many clicks you get, how many impressions you get, but what is your reputation? What is the sentiment in the market about your organization or your product or your services? And then the second thing, which is linked to this, is strategic partnerships. So I think we need to be better at measuring the impact and the success and the return on investment on partnerships. Because we know, especially in fintechs are partnering with other fintechs, they're partnering with banks. So partnership, I think, should be included in the KPI for marketing, strategic partnerships. And then I leave the experts to talk about more digital marketing and other measures. But I think for me, reputation and partnerships.
Is it possible? It's not easy to measure partnerships, right?
It's very hard because you need, first of all, partnerships take long to build, and also you need to allow a long time before you can actually see results. You need to be patient about that. It can be also risky because if, let's say, your partner's reputation is not the best or is having challenges in that sense, then your reputation is also impacted and affected. So I think it's very difficult, but I'm sure that we can get to the point where we measure it.
I think it's really important to have a view of your full funnel activity. And, there's a lot of channels where it's easy to, attribute direct conversion to, but there's other channels where it's not so much. But, those channels which are hard to measure are the ones that are doing all the kind of the grunt work at the top of the funnel, driving conversion. So I think, it's super important to have that holistic view and understand, the influence of channels on one another. And it's not always about direct conversion. It's about nudging people through the funnel.
What we've seen like on X as well, especially in fintech, is exactly what both of you are mentioning, right? So over the last couple of years, more and more partners in fintech, but like across the board, to be honest, like having like a focus on more and more metrics, versus maybe a couple of years ago, a lot of focus on cost per acquisition, and now they are like looking more broadly at lifetime value, but also upper into the funnel, like brand lift has been like a big focus for our partners. And about partnership is interesting because we actually have some, well, it's not perfect method, right? But imagine like a fintech brand that sponsor like like a football team, right? So what we've been trying to do to measure the impact of those partnerships is actually to work as triangle with the partner and the football team, bring the content on X, and then measure, for instance, again, the brand lift of the volume of conversation of that specific partnership has been working very well over the last couple of years, and we see that as a growth element for the vertical.
Yeah, I think that's really important because lots of firms, I think, still work to fixed marketing budgets and fixed CPA targets, and I think that's quite outdated and it really limits growth. I think looking more on a payback kind of model and understanding again the influence of other channels, and if you spend X, when do you get it back, and do you get it back in multiples? And I think that's that's where you see growth. And I think the most successful kind of marketing functions have the confidence and the buy-in to flex that CPA and flex that payback depending on the initiative and the customer segment, because it's it differs. So
Yeah, so having others speak about your brand in a good way, and there's ways to estimate, track some of that and estimate. I think also to look at your customer base and get creative on how to get them more active. And let's go back to the prop trading firms. Let's say I have a trader and he just busted out again. He's going to restart and he can maybe he's on a promo code, giving him 40%. But you know what? Share it on your Instagram. Maybe bring me other referrals
Or on X.
and get an 80 or on X.
Or next.
Go to Grok, convert Grok for me, and get an 80% promo codes, right? So going back, remember what's marketing and investing more in your customers to get more business out of them. You will get a lot more productivity. We need to leave the Google era and start working more on our direct and brand and more on our customers to have them as agents in a good way.
The way we have been doing this on X, and first of all, I never heard like so many bad pitches against Google. I love it, and I'm not actually the one doing it. But like on the having your clients talk and speak about your brands, right? About 1 year ago, we launched something that is called affiliate programs. So every company can actually assign their own little badge of their company to their clients or their like employees or whatever, right? So if you check, my profile on X, there is a little X logo against it. And we've seen more and more brands actually assigning these little affiliate programs to their clients. I think eToro, for instance, in Israel has been doing very, very well, where they have their own popular investors and they assign those badges. That's an example where they kind of like brand the content of their own clients to, again, increase visibility and message,
I've got a bit of bad news for you because you haven't heard the bad things I have to say about the affiliate model yet. No, the affiliate model, there's a problem because today there's so many touch points. If I'm an affiliate, it's not fair that I do all the marketing and you want to pay me CPA. Is it working?
Yeah.
You want to make me CPA or other performance. I did all the marketing for you. There's a lot more touch points. They might go to the AI. They might convert. They go on a different device. There's no more tracking. There's first cookie, last cookie.
This is not affiliate,
I think that brands that will not relate to that, there will be create a void.
Yeah.
The good affiliates will work with the brands that pay them upfront or pay them for the real work. So the affiliate model with all these touch points, and AI is increasing those touch points, is also at a problem. And marketers are used to the old world because they're used to the PPC and CPA. So they come to publishers. What's your performance? I want to pay you just for active users. Oh wow, okay. And what will happen? The good affiliates, what's happening already, they will start working with different models. If you go to the good sites and the industry, FX Street, FX Empire, Investing Live, others, they're working more and more like this, and for a reason.
Tony, do you have anything to say about affiliates?
No, that's not really my bag at all. But what does strike me there, though, the conversation, I do wonder if there's slight crossed wires. You coming at the affiliate model from very much the forex, whereas your example was this badge that doesn't necessarily have a financial driver.
It's about content distribution, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, like, again, like in the eToro example, they have these like popular investors, right? So the popular investors themselves want to talk about how successful they are on eToro, right? And so what they do is simply, giving them an extra boost and visibility of being associated with eToro. But there are not the complexity that you were describing about the old link affiliate program. It's about content distribution. It's about having your customer talk about your brand.
Okay, I think we have time for one more topic. I wanted to touch localization, but I don't think we'll have enough time. So just to wrap up the conversation, how should marketers prepare for the next years, AI-wise? And also, Federico, you can talk about X money if you like.
I can't actually, but I will improvise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
Because this is one of the things that's gonna be launched. So as much as you can elaborate, it's up to you.
Yeah. So like again, next year in terms of next 18 months, for us definitely X money is one area of like big investment. It will be launched fully in the US first, and then it will expand globally. We see that like, as a incredible way for like really revolutionize how users on X manage their like financial life in a way. So in practical terms, there will be a wallet associated. You will be able to do like a transfer and having a saving account and having a debit card associated and all that kind of stuff. And I think that will ultimately enable more and more use case to actually have like a real money economy on the platform. This hasn't never been done at this scale with, again, more than 500 million users on the platform. So we are very excited. It's a lot of work because, as you can imagine, both from a product perspective and regulatory perspective, there is some work to be done.
Some work.
Yeah, but there is a lot of focus on that. And then in terms of what we expect, again, next year and the following, we've been chatting a lot about AI. I think ultimately, our investment goes in that direction, and we see again, AI having like a bigger impact on the finance conversation on the platform.
Tony.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's the governance point that's already been touched on that's so important, especially for us as marketeers, that we have to be able to project that message back to others within the business and the industry about the risks that belie us all if we're not astute with what we do here.
Do you feel this perception is gaining popularity in the industry, or is it something that everyone likes to mention but not really implement?
The governance.
The governance.
No, I think people are largely blind to it. And the obsession is, what can we do, especially the situation where you're being forced to pay for these AI tools? How do we then build those into workflows? How do we make the most out of them? And almost ignoring the what I perceive as being quality implications. As Joe said, there's lots that can be done. And I know in the back office functions, KYC, AML, all that kind of stuff, AI can play a fantastic role in terms of speeding things up, reducing costs there. But I just think when it comes to pushing stuff out the door, we need to be careful.
But inside organizations, so who is pushing for this excessive use of AI? Is it CFOs? Is it CEOs? HR?
my experience is it can come from various places, but you just end up with an advocate, someone who catches the ear of senior management and who buy into the idea we can do more for less. And their fiduciary duty is arguably addressed by going down that path, but they're not looking at the real implications.
I think marketeers want to use AI. We want to use AI. We want to use it as much as possible. I think looking at the future next year, next 2 years, I think the regulation side of things, if I think about marketeers working in fintechs, I mean, there's a lot of financial promotions. They need to be approved by a compliance team and so on. And a lot of campaigns right now, well, a lot, a few that I've seen have been developed by AI. I think the example is eToro. I think they've done a complete video campaign just using AI, generated by AI, which is great. But I think consumers, us, we need to know whether this campaign is AI generated. And we need to continue to build that trust with the consumer. So that's the massive challenge that we have in marketing for fintech, is like how we keep this trust with our own consumers by using AI. Because trust can go in a second. So you need to make sure that whatever we do in AI is regulated and we have good governance on the use, especially from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. At least in a publishing point of view, we also use AI to create content, and in the end of the day, everything is being scrutinized by a human editor. But I think that in the end of the day, the end consumer needs to trust the brand or the publication to make to be sincere and to be in full control of the end product.
And if you think about financial services and fintech, I mean, what's the most important value? It's trust.
Trust.
Because you're managing money, you're transferring money. Trust is important.
We're talking about marketing in 2026, and I mentioned that hopefully the audience will take some practical takeaways, and any strategies and recommendations that are not practical are not worth a lot, maybe in academics, not in our world. So there's two things. One is less obvious, one is more obvious. The less obvious, I think every organization today should come back after this and have a thought about who is my AI champion within the organization. Usually it's a person that's more close to AI, more likes it, and she or he can now also be more updated, bring in the knowledge. There's things happening all the time in AI. To have that champion, AI champion, AIC, so that is very important. That is actually something that I'm doing within Finance Magnates and Investing Live. I like it a lot, and I update the people about what's going on, things that are important to them. That's one. Secondly, it's using more voice. Everyone knows it, but still the potential is vast. You don't need to be a marketeer, whatever role you're at. All right, the fact that most people are typing into the AI. When you're getting more time, space to speak to it indirectly, you might not even be aware of it. The context that you're giving it is vast, a lot more. And this context will later translate. I'm doing this all the time. I've seen the differences. So getting yourself and your employees more time speaking to it and not only typing to it. They will give 5-10 times more information, and on certain tasks they will become more precise, less hallucinations, more personal, and more higher quality, higher productivity. Those are the two things. AI champion and use voice a lot more.
Interesting. Joe,
In 26 seconds.
you'll get
Give you an
extension.
We'll give you an extension.
I think brand is going to be more important than it's ever been. Building a trusted brand, a brand that's deeply relevant to your target users. I think with the explosion of AI, of automation, of data-driven strategies, which are all brilliant, I think sometimes we've lost sight that we're actually selling to human beings at the end of the day. So bringing that kind of customer focus and brand focus back to life, I think, is something that we'll see really strongly, and that I'm a brand girl at heart, so that excites me. I think there's going to be some good stuff coming.
Back to humanity. That's the end goal. Okay, thanks very much. It's been really interesting, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.